Alright everyone, and so we have reached the end of Phase 5 as Thunderbolts is now officially released in theaters, and now that we have 6 MCU titles in Marvel's Phase 5, especially as we look forward to Marvel's future for what they have in store for us and beyond in the multiverse saga, because especially these projects were hits and misses. I'm gonna get into why as well. And so this will be my ranking of all of Marvel Phase 5 movies from worst to best, with Thunderbolts now included in this list. And trust me, these are my own opinions. I'm pretty sure that you have your opinions, but now let's get right down to business as well. And so, if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss on any future videos. But now, let's get into this ranking. And coming in at last place at number 6 is The Marvels, aka Captain Marvel 2. And now, especially, even though I thought it was a fun movie, it was still my least favorite movie in the multiverse saga. Because, especially when you have Carol Danvers, Kamala Khan, and Monica Rambeau all teaming up together for the first time and switching places and trying to defeat Dar-Ben. But I don't look back on this movie often, but even though it still delivered the goodies, as you know, Florkins and with some Nick Fury action, but just with the entire movie itself, it kind of felt convoluted and everything felt short, because especially as characters don't have time to breathe once they are in their presence and on screen. But even though I didn't enjoy the action, and it was a fun enough, entertaining watch. The writing was not good. It was not my favorite movie, but even though it was just not great in general. But even though it did set up the Young Avengers, especially with Kamala Khan that was recruiting people with Kate Bishop, and then you had that big post-credit scene teasing the X-Men. But just with the entire movie itself, it kind of felt empty, but I still had a pleasant time with it. It was my least favorite. Coming in at number 5 is Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Now, this movie kicked off Phase 5 and introducing the debut of Kane the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, this time-traveling, menacing villain who could take out any Avenger. And the way that he was so impactful on screen, especially with his presence and the way of what he was going to do to Ant-Man and possibly destroy him. I really liked exploring the quantum realm, but for the way that it was unveiled to us, especially as I found it quite interesting at how it was all unfolded in this third Ant-Man movie. And even though I liked Scott and Cassie's dynamic, that they were great as a father and daughter duo, that they had their moments. And even though I liked the rest of the characters for what purpose they served, but even though I was not a fan of the writing choices, and even though I still have issues with it, but just with the final act, it kind of felt lazy, and the way that they wanted to do it, especially with Ant-Man that defeated Kang. I mean, even though that was not supposed to happen, because this movie went through many rewrites, but even though towards the end with the post-credit scene that teased Council of Kings, but even though we see everything that went downhill since that, especially with Jonathan Majors and the drama behind the scenes over at Marvel Studios. But I don't know if that movie will ever be existent because of that. But even though we will say Kang down the line, but I don't know. But even though it's my least favorite, and even though I had a good time with it. Coming in at number 4 is Captain America Brave New World. And now this was introducing Sam Wilson as the new Captain America and trying to unfold this global incident for who was behind it all. And you have Harrison Ford, who was Thaddeus Ross, the President of the United States. And granted for the fact that this movie went through behind the scenes issues and all the drama, especially while the reworking had to do in terms of reshoots, and especially if you all read the headlines. Even though it had dope action sequences, it kind of felt like a grounded Marvel story. And even though I did like some parts of the story, because even with the leader as the main villain, and even though I liked him the least, but even with the showdown between Captain America and Red Hulk, and I felt like if it was advertised a lot less, I would have liked it. But hey, they showed a lot for this movie, but the final minutes of the movie and for how it all turned out, it was a good, entertaining watch. But with that final showdown, I kind of liked it less, because the green screen and everything that Marvel has put in their generic work, it was not my cup of tea. Coming at number 3 is Thunderbolts. This is the newly released MCU movie, and I really enjoyed this movie. In fact, it was just like a great Marvel movie, and it felt a much more a darker project for what Marvel's put out, especially when you have this group of anti-heroes coming together to form a team. This is a movie about redemption, and even though this deals a lot with mental health and for what our characters go through in terms of trauma, and even though Yelena was definitely the standout in terms of the other characters, as especially Sentry was pulled off as a great villain, and you know I liked him as the antagonist, and just with everything surrounding this movie, it felt like more grounded and just more of like a standalone project that doesn't have all these tie-ins. But especially as this is the last Phase 5 movie in terms of what they set up towards the end, especially with the post-credit scene, and it definitely makes me excited for Marvel's future ahead, and it was insane. Coming at number 2 is Deadpool and Wolverine. This marked Ryan Reynolds' first time in the MCU as Deadpool, and the return of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine after Logan, and seeing these two pair up together on screen, it was just like a match made in heaven. And not only was this a great Marvel movie, but a great superhero movie in general, and everything that you want as a comic book fan and as a pop culture fan in general. As Sean Levy really did a great job with this movie in terms of the storytelling, the action, and all the cameos and everything that you want, all that galore and all that bloody action, especially with the TVA involved, and it pays tribute to the old school style of Marvel characters, including for the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and especially as that was that old type of era. And I know that we're going to see these two a while after that, but hey, I really loved everything about this movie, and especially, I mean, it was just a great superhero movie in general, and yeah, it was just like a match made in heaven. It was just such a great Marvel movie. But coming at number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and what a way to wrap up a trilogy from James Gunn. Like, he knocked this one out of the park, especially as this gave a great send-off to our characters, especially with the soundtrack that completely slaps, especially as it relied on the fate of our main characters, like especially which ones were going to die, and it really relied heavily on these characters, especially as I love the writing, and especially with the storytelling and how this was going to be the last movie, and even though with the High Evolutionary, who I thought was a great MCU villain ever pulled off on screen, especially for what he was doing and for what his plan was. Especially, I was in emotions, especially when they introduced Rocket's backstory. I was on board. I fell in love with the entire concept and everything else. But again, towards the end of the movie, it was just a great send-off to our characters. I mean, like, anything that James Gunn pulls off behind the camera, I'm sure to be able to check it out, because he's a great director ever for the comic book movie genre in general. And so I gotta tip my hat to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for being a great Phase 5 movie. And so there you have it. This is my ranking of all Phase 5 movies in the MCU, and especially as we've had so many movies come out in this phase, especially as we have Fantastic Four First Steps to be the first movie in Phase 6, because especially as we look ahead, especially for the upcoming Avengers movies with Doomsday, Secret Wars, Spider-Man Brand New Day, and all that stuff that we can look forward to as MCU fans in general. And so, yeah, we have reached the end of another phase, and even though some were hits and misses, but hey, I liked what we got, and yeah, long live another good phase of movies as well from the MCU. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and what your thoughts on my ranking, and what would you rank all these Marvel Phase 5 movies? Just let me know in the comments below and your opinions on it. Don't forget to like the video, and subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. And also follow all my social medias, all linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.